Hi everyone, welcome to Raw Inspired Living. My name is Kelly and I am so grateful to have you all here. Can I tell you something that took me an embarrassingly long time to understand? I used to think that being hungry all the time was a me problem, a willpower problem, a discipline problem. I would eat what I thought was really good solid meal, like good food, healthy food, and within 2 hours I was hungry again. Not peckish, but actually really quite hungry. And I remember thinking, God, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just feel satisfied with food? You know, I love nutrition and I've studied nutrition and, I know what I'm doing and still here I am hungry again by mid-morning. Honestly, I spent so long interpreting that hunger as a personal failing, and it wasn't. It was physiology. And once I understood what was actually driving it, everything changed. So that's what this video is about, because if you're in perimenopause or post-menopause and you feel like you are always hungry, even after eating, even when you're eating well, I want you to understand exactly why that is happening in your body. It is not about willpower. This is not about eating less, and it's absolutely not about something being wrong with you. It is about a very specific hormonal shift that changes how your body reads, interprets, and signals hunger. And when you understand it, you can actually do something about it. So let's get into it. To understand why hunger changes in perimenopause and menopause, we have to start with estrogen, because estrogen is doing a lot more than most women are ever told. We tend to think of estrogen as just a reproductive hormone, and yes, it definitely plays that role, but it also is deeply involved in metabolic regulation. It influences insulin sensitivity, it plays a role in how your body stores and accesses fuel, and this is the piece most people don't know. It directly influences two of your key hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is the hormone that tells your brain you are hungry. It rises before meals and it drops after eating. Leptin is the hormone that tells your brain you are full and satisfied. It signals that you have sufficient energy stored and that you can now stop eating. In a hormonally balanced environment, these two hormones work beautifully together. You get hungry at predictable times, you eat, you feel satisfied, and that satisfaction lasts. But here is what happens as estrogen declines in perimenopause. Research shows that falling estrogen is associated with rising ghrelin levels, meaning your hunger signal becomes more loud, more persistent, and more frequent. At the same time, leptin sensitivity decreases. So not only are you getting stronger hunger signals, but the signals that should be telling you that you're full are not landing as clearly. You eat and your brain doesn't quite register satisfaction the way it used to, so you eat again. And you are still thinking about food an hour later. This is not a failure of discipline. This is a hormone signaling shift. And it explains so much of what women in perimenopause describe, this sense that their appetite has changed, that they feel hungrier than they used to, that they can eat a full meal and still feel like something is missing. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. And this is the layer I really want you to understand, because the ghrelin and the leptin piece is only part of the story. The other major driver of hunger in perimenopause is blood sugar instability and the cortisol response that comes with it. And I covered the mechanics of this detail in video 2 of this blood sugar series. So if you haven't watched that one, I'll link it below. But let me give you the summary because it is essential to understanding hunger. So as estrogen declines, insulin sensitivity decreases. This means glucose moves into your cells less efficiently than it used to. Blood sugar becomes less stable, and when blood sugar drops, whether that's from a long gap between meals, a meal too low in protein, a fruit-heavy smoothie that digests quickly without enough protein to anchor it, your body reads that drop as a threat, as a fuel emergency, and cortisol rises to compensate. Cortisol's job in this moment is to raise blood sugar back up by releasing stored fuel. But here is the thing about cortisol. It also drives hunger. Specifically, it drives cravings for fast energy foods, sweet things, refined carbohydrates, the kinds of foods that spike blood sugar quickly. So your body is trying to solve a blood sugar problem, but the mechanism it uses to solve it makes you more hungry and more prone to reaching for the exact foods that will spike and crash your blood sugar again. It is a cycle. And once you are in it, it feels incredibly difficult to get out of. Not because you lack willpower, but because you are fighting a genuine physiological loop. And I want to pause here for a moment because I think this is the part that women in perimenopause menopause most need to hear. When you are caught in this cycle, hungry all the time, craving sugar in the afternoon, feeling like you just ate and somehow still want more food, that is not you being bad at this. That is your body doing exactly what a stressed, hormonally shifting body does. It is trying to protect you. It is trying to keep blood sugar stable in an environment where the hormonal scaffolding that used to help with that is no longer available. Understanding that shifts everything because it means the solution is not restriction. The solution is stability. So let me talk about what I see most often in women who are dealing with persistent hunger in perimenopause and menopause, because there are very specific patterns and that really do make this worse. And most of them are things that seem perfectly healthy on the surface. So the first one is long gaps between meals. In your 20s and 30s, you might have absolutely been fine eating breakfast and not eating again until 1 in the afternoon. That window of time didn't destabilize you. But in perimenopause and menopause with reduced insulin sensitivity and a more sensitive sort of stress response, a long gap between meals is much more likely to trigger a cortisol rise and a corresponding hunger spike. And by the time you eat, you are not just hungry, you are ravenous. That's definitely what I found. And eating from that place of intense hunger almost always means eating more than you need and choosing things that spike your blood sugar again. The second pattern is meals that are low in protein. Protein is one of the most powerful tools we have for stabilising blood sugar and genuinely sustaining satiety. It slows glucose absorption, it supports muscle mass, which drives insulin sensitivity, and it directly influences the hormones that regulate fullness. When meals are fruit forward or grain heavy without sufficient protein, or built around foods that digest quickly without an anchor, blood sugar moves faster and drops sooner, and hunger returns sooner. This is incredibly common in plant-based eating, and I say that as someone who has lived it. So many of the meal patterns that feel healthy and clean, a big smoothie for breakfast, a big salad for lunch, fruit as a snack, can actually be working against metabolic stability in midlife if protein is not intentionally included. And the third pattern is what I call underfueling, disguised as discipline. Eating very little at a meal, or skipping a meal because you're busy or because you think it will help with weight, or going through a period of low intake because you're trying to, be good or lower your caloric intake. Every time you underfuel, especially with reduced estrogen, you are signaling fuel scarcity to your body. Cortisol rises, hunger rises, and often by mid-afternoon or evening, the hunger that was suppressed earlier in the day comes back with significant force. You're even more hungry. So what does the solution actually look like? Because I don't want to just explain the problem. I want this to be genuinely useful for you. The approach that works for metabolic hunger in perimenopause and menopause is not about eating less. It is about eating with structure and consistency. Those two things matter a great deal. Eating approximately every 3 to 4 hours while you're awake gives your body steady, predictable fuel. It keeps blood sugar within a stable range, and it reduces the frequency and intensity of cortisol spikes. And over time, it recalibrates the ghrelin and the leptin cycle. Hunger becomes more predictable, more manageable, and meals become genuinely satisfying again. The next is anchoring every meal with adequate protein. That's the second piece. For women in midlife, getting somewhere in the range of 25 to 35 grams of protein per meal is genuinely protective. It stabilizes the blood sugar, it supports muscle, and it is one of the most effective things you can do to extend your satiety and reduce that persistent background hunger. If you are plant-based, this requires intention. It is completely achievable. I do it, but it does not happen by accident. You're looking at foods like tofu, tempeh, legumes, beans, quality plant protein powders used strategically, making sure every meal has a genuine protein anchor, not just a little sprinkle. And the third piece is structuring carbohydrates rather than avoiding them. Carbohydrates are not the enemy here. Your body needs carbohydrates, but unstructured carbohydrates like fruit on its own or refined grains without protein, large amounts of simple sugars, move through your system very quickly and do not provide the sustained energy your body needs to feel genuinely full. So pairing carbohydrates with protein, keeping portions moderate and consistent, and choosing whole food sources, this is how you're going to change how the body processes that fuel and how long your satiety lasts. This isn't about perfection, and it's not about obsessively tracking or eating the same thing every day. It is about giving your body the consistent, reliable fuel signals that tell it you are safe, right? Your resources are steady. You do not need to keep asking for more. And when that message lands consistently over days and then weeks, the hunger does settle. Not because you are suppressing it, because the underlying driver of it has been addressed. I want to close by coming back to where I started, that feeling of being always hungry, always thinking about food, always feeling like something is missing even after eating. I know how demoralising that is. I know how easy it is to conclude that the problem is you. It was a physiological environment that changed without you being given the information to understand it or respond to it intelligently. That's what I'm here to help with. So if you want to go deeper on the fundamentals of midlife metabolism, I have a free guide. It's called Understanding Your Midlife Metabolism, and you can get it at rawinspiredliving.com/midlifemetabolism, and I will link it in the notes below. It walks you through what is happening in your body and what it actually needs at this stage. So grab it. You will not be sorry if you just have a read of it, right? It has a little 3-day meal plan in there to get you started. And I'm be so grateful if you did download it, because I know that you want to share it with other women, because it really does make a lot more sense when you understand what's going on in your body. So I hope this video has helped you in some way, and if it has, please share it with other women you know that might be in the same boat as you, and I look forward to seeing you again in Raw Inspired Living.